Okay, hi Jamie. This is my video submission for the Nutritional Counseling Motivational Interviewing Evaluation, or slash evaluation. This is my patient today, Jacob.
Hello.
You know Jacob from the prevention videos, obviously, and then he came into the clinic. So I'm just gonna jump right in here. So first, if we were in the clinic, I would have worked up through the initial exam, and I would use all the information from like your medical and dental history, everything from the oral exam booklet that we use. So anything like all of your soft tissue findings when I was looking at your gums and your cheeks, and then also anything from the dental chart. So if the dentist found any cavities, which I know he didn't when you came in, but if you found any cavities, if you had any missing teeth, for example, all of those kind of factors I would have assessed. Even like your cavities risk, we call that Canberra risk. I do remember you were a high risk just due to those white spot lesions, areas where some of your enamel started to demineralize a little bit. They're at a higher risk for a cavity in that area. But I would use all the information and assess it and apply it to today's interview. And then I would begin our actual nutritional motivational interviewing process. So Jacob, is it okay if we talk about your nutrition, what you eat, and how your nutrition can affect the health of your mouth?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about what you currently know about your nutrition and how that affects the health of your teeth?
Well, I know that the sugar and stuff like that off of food can affect how your teeth can leak like cavities.
Okay. And can you tell me, do you know a little bit about the process, like that pathway of how sugar can lead to cavities?
Not really.
Not really. That's okay. It's been a while since we've talked about it in prevention. It's been a year. So, before we get into talking about that process and more about how your nutrition specifically can affect some of your oral health, is it okay if you tell me a little bit more about what you've eaten in the last 24 hours?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do, we call it a 24-hour recall. Basically what I want you to do is tell me everything you've eaten, even, if you added butter to cook something, or if you used, oil as, for like non-stick, stuff like that. That would be great. Okay, so go ahead and start. Let's see. It's currently afternoon, so let's start with around dinner time yesterday.
Last night for dinner was steak tacos.
Okay. And what was on those tacos?
Onions and cilantro.
Onions and cilantro. That sounds good. Steak tacos with onions and cilantro. And that tortilla, was it a corn or flour tortilla?
It was a corn tortilla.
Okay. And do you know if there was any sort of butter on the side, like any butter used to cook those, or any sort of oil?
I don't believe so. It might have been oil.
Maybe oil?
Yeah.
We went to a restaurant last night, so unknown. Did you eat anything with those tacos or just the tacos for dinner?
It was corn and a Diet Pepsi.
Corn and a Diet Pepsi, okay. Was there anything in the corn?
There was cheese in the corn.
Cheese, okay. That sounds good. Kind of like a street corn situation?
Yeah. Yep.
That sounds really good. That's one of my favorites. Did you have anything after dinner last night?
Yes, chocolate cake.
Yeah, chocolate. We got chocolate cake for free.
Chocolate cake and strawberry ice cream.
Okay. With strawberry icing. Oh, not ice. Oh, ice cream. I almost wrote icing. My bad. Ice cream. Okay. Did you have anything else from yesterday?
The rest of the night, no.
Okay. And then how about this morning? Did you have anything for breakfast?
This morning for breakfast, I had eggs with biscuits.
Okay, and how are those eggs prepared?
Fried. No, fried eggs.
Fried eggs, okay. Were they fried in oil?
Yes.
Okay. And you said with biscuits, correct?
Yep, biscuits and gravy.
Biscuits and gravy. Oh, that sounds really good. I wish I had biscuits and gravy for breakfast. Biscuits and gravy. Okay. Anything else with breakfast?
An energy drink.
Energy drink? Okay, that's okay. Everything in moderation, my friend. Energy drink. Okay. Did you have anything else with breakfast?
Between there and lunch, I had 2 bags of chips.
Okay, so a little snack.
Yeah.
And then since we started with dinner yesterday, let's include some lunch today. What'd you have for lunch?
Raising Cane's.
Raising Cane's, okay. Do you know, can you give me the amounts of chicken tenders
It was 4 fried chicken tenders.
you had? Okay. Did you have any sides with those?
Yeah, it was a large fry and 2 Texas toast.
Fry. Okay.
And I also had a sweet tea with that.
I was just about to ask if you had anything to drink with that. Sweet tea.
I guess I was just throwing some water throughout the day.
Okay, so water throughout the day. Alrighty, so in the last 24 hours, I have that you had steak tacos with onions and cilantro for dinner on a corn tortilla. Maybe you had oil to cook the steak. A corn with cheese as the side. Some Diet Pepsi. And then a chocolate cake with strawberry ice cream for dessert. For breakfast this morning, eggs that were fried, biscuits and gravy, and an energy drink. You had 2 chips, 2 bags of chips as a snack. And then today for lunch, 4 chicken tenders, a large fry, 2 Texas toast, and a sweet tea. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Alrighty. So I'm going to do real quick here is I'm going to go ahead and circle the foods that, based on what we've learned in my nutrition class, could be potentially cavity causing. I'm going to circle that corn tortilla. Now, the Diet Pepsi, although it's sugar-free and it isn't necessarily cavity causing, it could lead to, we call it dental erosion. So just because it's a highly acidic drink. And as we talked about in prevention, acid is what ultimately causes cavities. So that acidic drink could still cause enamel breakdown over time, but it's not necessarily cavity causing, because to be a cavity there would have to be bacteria involved. Do you see what I'm saying?
That makes sense, yeah.
So I'm not going to circle the Diet Pepsi, but like just making connections, I guess, out loud. I'm going to write down the chocolate cake, the ice cream, biscuits and gravy. Do you know that energy drink, was it sugar-free or did it have sugar in it?
It was sugar-free.
Okay. This one might surprise you, but I am going to circle the chip bag. I feel like a lot of people don't think about chips being cavity causing because they're low in added sugars, but they are still a carbohydrate. And then include the chicken tenders for the breading, the fry, and the Texas toasts, and the sweet tea as well. Alrighty. So I'm going to let you hold on to this for right now. We can circle back to that in a little bit. So real quickly, I'm just going to explain the connection of your oral health to your overall health. And in prevention, we talked a little bit about how important the daily removal of plaque is in that bacteria that sits on your teeth. And that's for a couple different reasons. Obviously, it could, lead to that gingivitis and periodontitis like we had talked about, cavities, but also too just for certain high-risk populations, it could lead to heart issues or high blood pressure if that dental bacteria gets in the bloodstream. There's these different systemic, meaning body-wide connections that can result from poor oral health. But also having good oral health then can also reduce the risk for some of those conditions, mainly including your heart, stuff like that. But I know currently you're low risk for those, so I'm not going to get into that too much. But the connection of your nutrition to your oral health is really interesting. Not only can your oral health, your nutrition affect your oral health, such as cavities, and having a high carbohydrate, high sugar diet could cause cavities, like you had mentioned earlier that you know that connection between. But also too, if you were to have a insufficient diet, like not enough food, you're not eating enough nutrients, those clinical signs would first be seen in the oral cavity actually. So some of that, we could tell if you were deficient in a certain vitamin or nutrient based off signs in your mouth. And then it can also go the other way around. If you have a toothache, you might be not wanting to eat whole foods. You might be more prone to, just drink a liquid diet, or soft foods such as, soft bread or cake, something like that. So we're going to get into a little bit about what you had mentioned then too, with how sugar can cause cavities. So it seems like you just forgot the middle portion just a little bit from prevention. So sugar does eventually cause cavity, like lead to cavities, but it doesn't necessarily cause it. So it's how this works, and I'll write this out for you too, is, I'm actually going to take the sheet back from you, thank you. So when we consume sugar, and that could be any carbohydrate, and that's why I had mentioned when I had circled those potato chips, for example. Those aren't necessarily high in sugar, but they're high in carbohydrates, right? It's the potato, it's crunchy. So sugar or carbs plus bacteria, and this is why it's super important to remove that plaque that we had talked about in prevention. It's important to remove that every single day, because when the sugar is available to that bacteria as a food source, the bacteria is going to secrete or release an acid. And this acid, when it comes in structure in contact with the tooth surface, so acid plus tooth, we're going to get a cavity, or we can call it decay, cavity. The dental term for it is called a caries. So I'm going to give this back to you, and you can look at that pathway, how the sugar does eventually lead to cavities, like you had mentioned. There's just that interstep, that's the acid is what ultimately causes that cavity. And what's interesting about this specifically, and I know the next one is talking about frequency of snacking, is that when that acid is released from bacteria, your tooth is going to be, like that acid is going to be on your tooth, on the surface of your teeth, for 20 to 60 minutes. So every time you were to take a sip of a sugary soda or eat a potato chip, your teeth are then exposed to that acid for another 20 minutes. The timer resets. So if you're eating over, if you're constantly snacking, little snacks throughout the day, then your teeth are going to be exposed to that acid over a longer period of time, increasing your risk for a cavity. Whereas if you were to eat, let's say, have a sugary soda just at dinner in one sitting, you're, yes, it's a sugary, high carbohydrate, sweet treat, but it's a shorter frequency of time. That 20-minute timer is only going to be, it's not going to be reset as if you were sipping on a soda throughout the entire day. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Let me quickly make sure I'm not missing anything I wanted to specifically talk about. I don't think so. Okay. And then what's really interesting that we just recently learned in nutrition was how the form of carbohydrates can cause cavities. So I feel like, we're constantly hearing about like sugary sodas and how those can cause cavities, right? Have you ever heard that?
Right.
But really, it's been proven that liquids actually clear out of the mouth faster than cookies or cake or even potato chips, that are more of those chewy, like fruit snacks, for example, too, something chewier, especially if you have like deep grooves on the biting surface of your molars, especially, they can get stuck in those areas, and they can be retained, so they can be left behind in the mouth for a longer amount of time than a liquid, a soda, that gets cleared out relatively fast by our saliva. So I feel like that's pretty interesting too. One of my personal favorite things I've learned in this class. But also too, then how our total diet intake can affect cavities, right? At the end of the day, everything we eat is going to have sugars in it, some form of carbohydrate, which is why it's super important that we drink water throughout the day. Make sure that we're keeping a good salivary flow going, so maybe chewing on gum or something, drinking a lot of water instead of soda, and then also too to remove biofilm daily. So brushing and flossing is important, as well as fluoride toothpaste, fluoride mouth rinses, something to help remineralize our tooth structure after exposure to sugars, which could cause the bacteria in our mouth to release that acid, which could eventually cause to that cavity like we were talking about earlier. So given all of that information, I would like to know, what are your thoughts? Did you learn anything new? What's like your main takeaway from today's conversation?
The main takeaway that I was based off of the list of what I've eaten in the last 24 hours, it seems like a lot of what you circled came out of a lot of stuff that was fried or covered in salt and stuff like that. Especially like the chicken tenders, the fries and stuff like that. All stuff that was like deep fried or stuff like that.
Well, and really you didn't have much that was, yes, lunch from Raising Cane's, but what I circled was the stuff that had high carbohydrate content, and stuff that could eat, kind of like we were talking with the chips and the chocolate cake, stuff that could get left behind on the biting surface of our molars and could be retained and left behind in our mouth for a long period of time. Because it's not necessarily the oil that causes cavities, it's the carbohydrates that can be left behind in our mouth for a longer period of time. Do you have any questions about that?
I do not.
No? There's one. Do you have any questions? I just asked that. Are you interested in discussing any options that could improve your oral health as related to your nutrition?
Sure.
Okay. Let's have you choose. I feel like this is a little backwards, but it's a little backwards. I'll ask you this again after we go over some options.
Okay.
But based off what we talked about today, what is one thing, like one behavior that you think you could change regarding your nutrition?
Like based off what it was circled, or just anything?
Based off what we've talked about today. So what we've circled, the equation I gave you on the back, how sugar, that process of sugar to the acid, from the bacteria to the cavity, anything from there. What's one behavior you think you'd like to change?
Probably like my sugar intake and the carbs intake.
Okay. So some different options I have for you then, about ways to decrease your risk for cavities, is, especially when it comes to decreasing your sugar intake, is to reduce the amount of snacks you have between meals. So for example, so your meal was the steak tacos, and then you had eggs and biscuits and gravy for breakfast, but then you had that snack of the potato chips between breakfast and lunch. So that's an easy way to reduce your sugar intake, is to reduce snacks, how many snacks you have between meals. And again, that also ties back into the frequency we were talking about, and how every time you eat something with carbohydrates and sugars in it, it resets that at least 20-minute timer. Bless you. No, you're good. But also too, some good options is that when you eat sugar, try to eat like proteins and fats with the sugar at the same time. So let's say when you were eating like your lunch today, right? Your chicken tenders, yeah, it had a breading on there, but you were eating protein with it, and you had your side of I mean, we didn't say this, but again, I was with him for lunch. So you had that side of mayonnaise on the side, like your fry sauce, that had fat in it. So that can reduce your risk of cavities by eating proteins and fats with it. Such as, or even like nuts, if with your potato chips as your snack. If you needed a snack between meals because you were hungry, maybe add in some nuts with that because they're high in proteins and fats. Also, too, if you're not able to brush your teeth after a meal, like after lunch, if you're at school, try to chew xylitol gum. It's anti-cariogenic. It's said to prevent bacteria from being able to cause cavities. So chewing on a xylitol sugar-free gum, such as Trident, can reduce your risk of cavities as well. One other option, too, I want to talk to you about drinking water after eating, but also, too, drinking water after eating instead of like a sugary soda is also a great option that can reduce your sugar intake. But using fluoride at home. So I know you use a fluoride toothpaste, but maybe adding in a fluoride mouth rinse for like a minute after brushing. All of these are great ways to decrease your risk of cavities, as well as a couple of them were targeting how to decrease your sugar intake. So do you have any questions for me today after we've talked about all these different options?
I do not.
Okay, let me just make sure real quick that I hit all of our bullet points here. And I think we are looking good. Beautiful. Alrighty, Jamie, sorry for the super long video here. Yeah, have a great rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.